Timeline for a lawsuit. So I get this question a lot. How long is it going to take? Well, in Florida, just figure a year, could be 2 years. But here's the process. The first thing is we file what's called a complaint. This is the first document that's filed in the court and gets the lawsuit going. Then we get the summons. We get that from the clerk. And, I get my process server to serve all of the defendants. Once they're served, then generally they have 20 days to answer. They file an answer. There may be motions and things like that, but generally an answer is filed, and they'll file some what are called affirmative defenses. And what is that? That's just like, we're not at fault, assumption of the risk, comparative negligence, whatever. So once those are filed, what I like to do is I file my notice for trial on the 21st day after those answers have been filed. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm ready for trial, but the rules allow me to file a notice for trial within 20 days after the answer has been filed. This is what moves the cases. So if you don't have a trial date, you're not getting a mediation date. In most cases, they settle at mediation. So this is what I do in every case to try to move it along and get it going. So once that's done, then that we have what's called the discovery phase. What is that? That's just like questions. They're going to ask you questions. They're called interrogatories. Fancy lawyer word for we got some questions for you. All right. Then there's requests for admissions. We'll ask the other side, hey, do you admit such and such? Do you admit you were at fault? Do you admit you were negligent, etc.? And then they'll ask us questions too, and both sides have to answer that. There may be depositions. There probably will be depositions of the plaintiff, the defendants. There may be expert witnesses. So what is that? That's just a lawyer talking to a witness. And then the lawyer for the other side is there. There's a court reporter that types everything down. It gets printed up if need be, if it's important enough for the case. And so those are depositions. Also, you're going to have to sit for a compulsory medical examination, or a CME. And what is this? This is the doctor from the other side that's going to examine you and say, oh, no, you're fine. You shouldn't have had this surgery. Everything's pre-existing. I mean, the reports are all the same. It's kind of a joke. Like, I could write the reports for them. I've seen so many of them. But this is what goes on. And they get paid to make whatever opinions they make, and they'll type up a little report. So you have all the depositions and discovery, requests for admissions, interrogatories, requests to produce. So in the request to produce, they're going to say, do you have photos? Do you have videos? Like whatever evidence you have, you got to turn that over. And a lot of times now too, you're also seeing phone records, because if people are on the phone when they're driving, this is no bueno. So they get the phone records. If you're on the phone when you're driving, you're probably distracted. This is the argument. There's also social media stuff, so you got to be real careful about what you post on social media after an accident, because that's discoverable as well. So all that takes time. If it's moving quick, you might be able to get that done in 6 months. But that would be moving pretty quick, because you understand you also have to work with the other people's schedules, and especially if there are multiple plaintiffs, if there are multiple defendants. Man, I just had a case mediation last week. Man, it took forever because there were so many plaintiffs, there were multiple defendants. Just trying to get everybody together is a logistical nightmare. So if there are a lot of plaintiffs, a lot of defendants, that case is going to go a lot longer than if it's just one plaintiff and one defendant. That's going to go a lot quicker actually. So several months down the road, maybe a year, something like that, should have a mediation. What's a mediation? This is a chance to settle the case before trial. And this is where most cases end up. Most cases get settled for personal injury. And really for pretty much every civil case, they get settled before trial. So it takes the gamble and the mystery out of going to trial. Maybe you lose. Maybe, the other side, they're worried about some runaway crazy verdict too. And what happens at a mediation? Well, you go in, the mediator says, hey, I'm not here to represent either side. This is a gamble. It's, if you go into trial, man, you never know what a jury's going to do. The only thing that person did to get there is they got a driver's license. That's their only credentials. They might not be the smartest person in the world, might not care about your case. So I'm here to try to settle this. And then the mediator usually would turn to me, the plaintiff's counsel, and say, Gray, tell us about your side of the story here. And then I'll tell my side of the story, liability, why they're at fault, what are the damages, economic damages, non-economic pain, suffering, future medical bills, future pain and suffering. Those numbers those can get really big. And then they'll turn to the defense and they'll say, tell us what your side is. And they'll say, this case is ridiculous. These injuries were all pre-existing. It's not our fault. Causation is an issue. It's a very small accident, whatever they're going to say. And then the mediator is going to split us up into different rooms. And typically this is done in a Zoom setting now. It's not in person. So the client and I will be in one room. The mediator will come in and say, hey, how much do you want? Oh, we want $1 million. Okay, I'll go to the other side. Then he goes to the other side. He talks to them for a little bit, and they come back and say, we'll give you $1,000. And then and this goes on for a couple hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Every case is different, but it takes a while. And usually both sides leave mad. Like, the plaintiff's like, I could have got more money. And the other side's like, oh my gosh, I paid way too much for this claim. That's usually a pretty good mediation when everybody's a little upset about things. But the nice thing about that mediation settlement there too is you don't have to wait for your trial. Because even if your case is set for trial, it ain't going. The judge's going to have 20 other trials set that day, and he's going to take the oldest one, which is like from 4 years ago. And then you're going to be reset, and you can be reset, and you can be reset. So mediation takes the gamble and the mystery out of whether you're going to win, whether you're going to lose, and when are you going to go? What's your time worth? Your time is certainly worth something. So all that's going to take at least a year. And depending on which county, there's some counties that are backed up more, like, for instance, Miami. I've got cases down in Miami right now. Backed up more down there. If you're in a smaller county, it's probably going to move a little quicker because they just don't have the volume. But just figure a year into it, it's probably going to settle at mediation. Maybe it goes to trial. Either way, at the end of that, we have to get the check. I have to deposit the check. It's got to clear. And then I work on getting all the medical bills down. So this makes no difference to the money I make, but it makes all the difference to you because every dollar that I can get it down, this goes directly in your pocket. And we want our clients to be happy. We want them to come back. We want them, come back if they're injured. We don't pray that they're injured, but if they are, to come back or refer people who they know. So that takes a while. So usually couple of weeks, whatever, we work on getting the medical bills down. Then we do what's called a closing sheet. On the closing, it'll say, we got you $1 million. The attorney's fees are this. And by the way, it's all regulated by the Florida bar. Everybody charges the same. It's a third if you don't sue, 40% if you're suing. So, and then I pay all the costs. I get those reimbursed, whatever the costs are. We negotiate those medical bills down, and then at the end, you get a check. You come in, you sign the closing statement. Typically, we'll send it to you electronically so you can take a look at it, electronically sign it, and there'll also be what's called a release. The release is going to say, you got this money, and this is the end of the claim. And sometimes, depending on who you're suing, like for instance, Uber, there's a confidentiality agreement. In other words, got to keep your mouth shut about, hey, I got X amount of dollars from Uber or whatever. So you sign the release, you sign the closing statement, and then you get a check. And then you go spend your money however you want to spend your money. But so this is an overview. But every case is different. But I would say just plan on a year. And, it's a lot of work for the lawyer, and it's work for you, too, because we're going to be talking to you, asking you for things. We're going to ask you, for pictures, for video, for anything that's related to the case. Now, we'll get the medical bills and the records and things like that and get those organized. But it's a lot of work, and we're happy to do the work, but just understand it's not done overnight. Just say it's a year. Might be 2 years, depending on what county you're in and how backed up things are, how many plaintiffs, how many defendants. So this is just a little bit of an overview of, hey, you filed suit, what's next, how long does it take, that sort of thing. I hope that helps clear a few things up for you. And, man, love you guys. God bless you. And just remember, law is not black or white. It's gray. See y'all later.